All right, y'all, we finna just jump straight up into it. Okay, let's just dive straight into it. So we've already kind of gotten a little bit of an introduction of who I am, what's happening. You'll get a little bit more here, but whatever. So let's get published. This is the introduction so we can get you on your way. My name, like we've talked about earlier, is Katie Bennett. I'm an Amazon best-selling author, ghostwriter. I like to joke that I am your favorite writer's ghostwriter because of one of two reasons. One, it's probably true. And two, if it's not true yet, it will be one day. So we're speaking that into existence. And publisher, as y'all know, being the visionary here at LexxiKhan Presents Publishing, what I do is just take concepts, ideas, and help people make those actual tangible things that they can put out into the market to expand their reach and set themselves up as a real subject matter expert in their field. That's what we do. Okay. My most popular book is Charge It to the Game, which we'll play around with. I'm going to pull out some information here and there. So you're going to see some of my work as we kind of go through this, just so that I can lay out what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. So the objective of this entire program, y'all, is to go through the 4 publishing steps. There are 4 basic publishing steps. That is why I tell people all the time, it's really only 4 steps. Do you need me to help you? You don't. You don't. I went through, learned this whole process on my own. So I know it can be done. But because I went through it on my own, that's how I know that it's not an easy thing to do. So I'm really proud of you for getting the experience that you need to make you feel more comfortable to take these steps. We're going to go through the 4 publishing steps. We're going to complete your manuscript. We're going to get you set up with your KDP account, and then we're going to get you self-published on Amazon. So this is the 4-step journey. Okay, it's literally this simple. So step 1, you plan your book. I'm very big on if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's just what it is. Step 2, you write your book. You use your plan and put it all together like a puzzle. Step 3 is you work with an editor to complete several rounds for accuracy. Step 4, you publish your book and you share that with the world. It is literally that simple. This is highlighted because we're on step 1, the planning phase. So kind of like I put in the introduction of like, I don't care if you're already on to step 2. I don't care if in your brain you're on to step 3. There's so much here in step 1 that is crucial that I need you to understand, okay? Because you are choosing to self-publish, that tells me that with your goals, you may not have a goal of trying to get into bookstores. You may not have a goal of applying for certain type of awards or something to that effect. When you make the decision to self-publish, that's the first thing I hear, is that you're just kind of wanting your book to be out with the world so people have an access to who you are and the story you have to tell. When you do choose to self-publish, so you choose to remove yourself from the umbrella either of a hybrid publisher or a traditional publishing company, there are certain things that you kind of remove yourself from. But there's certain things that if you do it the right way, you can still put yourself in alignment to doing it even as self-published. So we're going to go through a lot of that in step 1. Okay, because I want you to make the best long-term decision for your book. A lot of people are just going to try to tell you, hey, let's get it done, give us the book, or you just take what you have, you can put it on there. And while that is true, take it from somebody who's had to republish the same book multiple times. Just do it right the first time. That's why don't go on to no other step until you're done with this one. Okay. So in step 1, we're going to plan your story, content, and outline. We're going to plan your book cover. We're going to choose your book's trim size. We're going to decide if you will use the free ISBN provided by Amazon. And then we're going to review all of the content that's going to be underneath this step. So in this, I'm going to give you guys some additional information of things, resources that we have that I want you to check out. Okay. Like one of those resources is identifying your 5 fears or the 5 things that hold you back from actually completing your book. It's just important because as you advance to each step, you're going to be greeted with a new level of fear, a new level, new devil, like they like to say. And then there's just going to be some other information, like we've got ebooks that give you all of these technical definitions. I'm going to give you the ones that you need, but there's also some ones that I feel like you really should know if you plan to really make yourself known in this publishing field. So let's just get everything started off with your trim size. Your trim size is the page after it has been trimmed, okay? So for today's lessons, we're gonna focus on the tailor options, and that's gonna be an 8.5 by 11. I know it's blurred, that's fine. I need you to see in size. This is an 8.5 by 11. And think computer size paper, okay? So that's what this size is. And then you've also have, and this, just to put things into perspective, people usually use this for like children's books as well. This is like an activity book. So because it is an activity book where people are like cutting things out, that sort of deal, that's why that is the way that it is. And then this is a 6 by 9. Okay, this is pretty standard with most books, is this 6 by 9. Okay. And so you're gonna want to choose, which one do you want? Do you want this big old, think almost like a notebook for your clients or your potential clients, your readers, whatever? Do you want them with something like this? Or do you prefer to have something smaller that's a little bit more compact? Maybe they can just throw it in their purse and it's just easier for them, purse, backpack, whatever. So it's just easier for them to kind of carry and keep around. So definitely encourage you to decide on that, because before we get started and we get into this next step, you have to decide on that. Okay, because otherwise when we make it to step 2, don't do it to yourself. Make a decision. ISBN, so that's your International Standard Book Number. This is usually found on the copyright page of the book. While this is something that you see along the way, you do not need to have a custom, that's what that should say. You do not need to have a custom ISBN. You absolutely need one for every book. However, libraries, bookstores, and other book retailers all use ISBN to locate and order books. Therefore, it is a good idea to invest in one. Why? And I put a little note there. So this is important if you decide to self-publish. Traditional publishers and most hybrid publishing companies will automatically take care of this for you. So if you decide, okay, I want LexxiKhan to publish this for me, we provide our own. We buy ISBNs in bulk, and then issue them as needed. You, as an independent self-published author, you can either use the one that's going to be provided by Amazon, but one thing that I do want to point out to you is that when people look at the details of your book, you're never going to be able to claim that you are the publisher, because technically your publisher is Amazon if you use their ISBN. Okay. You do also have another way, which is you can go to myidentifiers.com, purchase your ISBN. That usually, don't quote me, it changes in price. I think the last time I looked was like $125 for your own custom ISBN. And that allows you to select your imprint. So that means when somebody looks at your book, you can then choose, like if you want to create your own publishing company, you can then choose what that looks like, what that is. But if you do not invest in your own ISBN, KDP is going to assign one for you, which is KDP, that's Amazon's program. They will assign one for you. You just will not be able to claim that you're the publisher, because technically you're not. Paperweight. So this is the size of the page. Sorry, y'all. This is wrong. Paperweight. I had the information somewhere else. So let me pull that up and we will get what that paperweight is that I'm trying to get you guys to see. Because these are your print options. I started working on this and I was like, So let me show you guys over here. So this is something that you want to consider. This is directly information, right? Your trim size, you'll see the most common is 6 by 9, which is what I showed you. But what we're focusing right now is your paperweight, because it is going to depend on how you want to do your story. It's going to depend on what you choose. I have you choosing this stuff right now for a reason, okay? Because when we get to certain things, I don't want you scrambling and looking. I want you to have a plan, okay? So when you're doing paperback, which with the focus of this, we're keeping the focus on paperback just because hardcover has its own little differences. I want to get you comfortable with paperback. If you want to follow this and do something different for hardcover, absolutely empower you to do that. But at least for now, we're sticking with paperback. So there's different pounds of paper. That's typically what it goes by. So you've got your 50 to 61 pound. One thing I was doing when I first got used to this is, if you don't want to guess, go to your local print shop and just ask them, hey, can I see 50, 60, 70 pound paper and see what the difference is? The biggest thing you're going to notice, like this, I don't know how much you're going to be able to tell, but um, this is 50-pound cream paper, okay? Cream just means that it has a little hint of cream in the paper itself. 50 pounds, you know, you can kind of hear it's a little, it's not really thick, okay? Not that you might be able to really tell the difference. This one, this guided journal was used on 70-pound paper, okay? The reason you may hear a little difference, you may not, like I'm trying to get it to y'all that there's a difference in this paper weight. The reason we went with a 70-pound is because, like I said, this is a workbook. There's writing on the front and the back. Sometimes there was like activities they may need to color. So those sort of things all kind of play a factor into choosing your paperweight. If you're doing a children's book, some sort of activity where there's going to be, you know, a lot of writing taking place, don't cheat yourself or your client. Invest in a little heavier paperweight. That does include having to have additional costs for printing, right? But it makes a huge difference, because, you know, to try to write on something, because if you really pick up a book and you really look at it, you may sometimes, depending on the type of book that the author used, you may be able to, you know, be able to see a little bit from one page to the other, like, oh, I can see that there's something on the back of that. If you're doing an activity book, you don't necessarily want your clients to realize that or to think that, right? So definitely do what is in the best interest for what you're doing. If you're doing a poetry book, you know, 50, 60-pound paper is perfect. Especially if you're not putting any color on it, it's perfect. But if you're going to be putting some color, full page cover, full activities, whatever, invest in a little bit more and just make that choice, okay? And then cover finish, I'll just do this while we're here. So cover finish, you've got two choices. You could do glossy or matte. And I'm trying to think if I have any. Best way that I can describe, oh, I do have one. Best way that I can describe matte kind of has like a really soft feel to it. The problem with matte, I will tell you this, so you make a very informed decision, is that when you start touching it, your fingerprints, you're going to see them. And when I edit this, I'll put some pictures of, like, I recently did a photo shoot. You can see my fingerprints on that book because it does have that matte cover. Usually when it's glossy, it's just like it sounds. It has a shiny finish. So you're not seeing every time there's necessarily fingerprints, unless your hands is dirty. Because then if your hands dirty, baby, then you finna see it. Okay. That's when things get a little different and a little interesting. So let's get right on over to it. Let's keep going. We also want to take some time to go over your book cover information. And so when I say your book cover information, I'm not only talking about, and let's pull another one of my books here. So we're not talking only about your back cover, right? We're also talking about just the cover in general. So what is that cover going to look like? What is your title? What is your subtitle? Are you using a pen name or a pseudonym to publish? And then you're also going to want to consider your back cover blurb. This is what introduces the clients to you, because think about it. You're not going to have an opportunity to do a quick elevator pitch or anything to that effect. So the way that you are going to impact your reader is them being able to go on Amazon and see the contents of your stuff and say, okay, is this something that I want to invest in? Does this seem worth it to me? So definitely take some time to consider that back information. What is your book, you know, your back cover synopsis? What is that going to be? What does that look like? You know, because it just really invites the reader into knowing more about you. Let's see if I have another one here. Like I'll use this charge it to the game stuff as another one. So like this one, right? I'll tell people all the time, this is a hood novela, because it is. You know, the main character is Afro-Latina, but it very much so has those urban fiction elements. So how am I going to pull them in? Y'all ever wonder why we call this a game? Boom. I know who my target audience is. I know who I'm talking to. And okay, I'm trying to catch you as soon as I can. So let's take some time and ponder on that. Okay. And then so we're just going to wrap up this section. So we're going to complete the attached PDFs with your outline, plan, and strategy. In addition, I'm going to have some other important access to like some ebooks that I definitely want you guys to check out. And then I'm going to encourage you, if you're stuck on this section at all, give us a call, schedule a one-on-one call. I can always go through, that's what these one-on-one strategy calls are there for, is so that we go through your full strategy together. But more importantly as well, I do need you to complete what I have for you to do, which is going to be this outline. So this is your book creation strategy. So you're going to put some pen and paper and we're going to figure out what's what. So the title of your book is, write the title there. Your subtitle is, write it there. My elevator pitch is, write it there. And your elevator pitch, that's just your quick, boom, what is this story about? You know, Charges to the Game is a hood novela. Most people, that's enough to be like, what's that? What's, you know, to invite them in. It should really be quick, concise, to the point, less than a sentence, and force people to say, I want to know more about what you're talking about. My book's back cover synopsis is, write out what that blurb is. My book's trim size, the paper I'm going to use, my book's finish, meaning do you want cover or matte? My plan to connect with my target audiences. We didn't go into all of this stuff just because we just didn't. That is included in some of those other steps. So I do encourage you to go look at those, but take some time to connect with your target audience, right? Like my target audience for Charges to the Game is people like myself, Afro-Latinos, who want to be seen and have always felt like, man, the media never portrays me. That's who my audience is. So what do? I talk to that audience on my social media. I share a lot of the confusion I have of defining my own lane, and my audience comes to me. Okay. And then it just makes it a lot easier and makes people want to buy into the book that you have. And then I want you to take a moment to write what you want your book cover to look like. Okay. This is just really important just because when we get onto these further steps, I have designed this program intentionally for you not to need to pay another dime or dollar if you don't want to. But I do encourage you with the ISBN, make an investment. If you've got some things that you want to do, it's going to be some investments involved. Okay. Don't cheat yourself. Don't do it. Okay. But just keep in mind, I intentionally tailored this so that for those of you who don't want to spend another dime or dollar, you absolutely positively can do it that way. But there's some expenses where if you're like, hey, you know what, I do want to be in a bookstore one day. Okay. Well, to do that, like, let's invest in ISBN, let's invest in a custom barcode that's going to go on your back cover. Let's invest in a custom book cover. Okay. Because these are all things that are going to make a big difference if your long-term goal is to one day get into a bookstore. Those are things that bookstores want to see. But again, this is tailored to just get you published, self-published. I'm just throwing these little details in here intentionally to get you to, as you're doing this, be thinking about what are those long-term goals that you have if you have not factored them in all the way. How is self-publishing myself going to impact what those long-term goals are going to be? Okay. This where you just like to do things with a lot of intentionality around here. Okay. And so that's all we're doing, baby. We're just making sure that you know that you have these options and things that you can do. So wrap this up, fill this out for me. And then once this is filled out, I highly encourage you to go complete all those other action steps. So that way you have the tools that you need that are necessary to go ahead and move on comfortably to step 2. Okay, because there's more here that we didn't touch, but that's because I taught about that in a different plan and program. I'm going to include that in a different step for you. Please get it done. What am I saying? Get it done. Because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. This is just the tip of the iceberg. You're going to spend a good bulk of time between these first 3 steps, because this is what makes your long-term goal, your long-term book, all of that come to fruition, is the amount of time that you put in planning. Because after you put all this time in planning, you think you're going to listen to all those excuses as you get on to 2 and 3? Absolutely not. And if you would, you just, baby, you crazy, and you could, don't charge it to my heart, charge it to the game, and let's do better. Okay. But we're going to put some planning and effort in, because you got this. So once this is all done, go ahead and complete all of the information that's going to be in the sub stuff along with this. And let's get over to section 2.